first question first. Why do we need a business model? For this, I'm going to start, with a small exercise. So all of you will be, asked to think, and that's what it happens in my sessions. I force my audience to think. I excite them to think. So why do we need a business model? For many reasons. Some people will need a business model because they want to build an investor kind of company. Some people are already facing challenges in their existing business models, and some people are trying to start a business model from scratch, so they also want more clarity. So people have different reasons, but to understand this reason more, I am going to initiate a very quick assignment for a minute only. So in front of you right now, you are seeing there are 3 different businesses which are mentioned. One is Groffer, other is DMart, and third is Kirana store. Now I want you all to think at least for a minute and find out the differences between these 3 businesses. And if some of you want to type it, please type the differences, what comes to your mind in chat box. So when I'm asking to compare the businesses, please do not mention the similarities. What is the difference between these 3 businesses? Just think about that and type it in your chat box. If you don't want to type in chat box, that's fine. You can note it down in your notebook. Grofers is an online platform. DMart is a supermarket chain, and Kirana store can be any Kirana store which is next to your home or office. Whatever difference comes to your mind, please type that in chat box. Take a minute. I'm asking all of you to think. That's an important exercise. Your thinking window will open and you will understand it more. Grofers, DMart, and Kirana store. Any Kirana store which is next to your home or office. DMart is a supermarket chain, and Grofers is an online grocery delivery platform. Any difference which comes to your mind? Okay. Even if it is one difference, that's good enough. Please start typing in your chat boxes. Okay, scale. Anyone else? Grofers is more professional platform, having presence on social media, having poor setup with strategic as compared to others. Okay. Anyone else? Quality. Cool. So what is happening when I'm asking you to compare these models? You're finding it difficult, right? You are being forced in that direction when you are, started thinking that how to compare these 3 kind of businesses. Now, what if I give you a very interesting framework through which you can compare any business? And not only the similarities, you can highlight the differences and you can understand it in more detail. And that's what the business model framework does. So when we are comparing any business, in the world, we need to understand which hat we are wearing. Are we wearing a hat of a user? Because most of the time we see the business from the front. We become a consumer of the business and we start seeing the other things which a general consumer sees that. But if we take a deep dive in the business and go backside and want to see the business from the back, not from the front side, rather see the business from the backside, that is a lens which is an investor is wearing. And the same lens is supposed to be used by entrepreneur, and the same lens is used by consultants also. And what is this lens? This is the lens of a business model canvas. This is the lens of taking a deep study on the business model. So as a user, we are only able to highlight some differences, but if we really want to compare the businesses in a very methodical way through a framework, that's a method which is used by investors, and that's the same method which is supposed to be used by you. I'll come to the advantages, why investors want that and why you should be doing it. There's an interesting list of advantages. I'm going to share that. But before, do you know that how many businesses are there in the world? There are approximately 25 crore businesses across the world. and 6.5 crore businesses out of that are only in India. India has 6.5 crore businesses, while the entire globe has approximately 25 crore businesses. This is very large and astonishing number. And do you know that each and every business is based on some 9 fundamental business blocks? It is exactly same like music. The way music has 7 basic tunes, and all the song compositions which are available in the world, all the millions of songs which are there in the world, they are all made up of 7 basic tunes. Sangeet ke saath sur, we all know that, right? So everything which is giant, which is very scaled, there is always basic fundamentals behind it. Even the human body is made of tissues and cells. So everything in the world is made up of some unit level entity. And similarly, the business is also made up of some unit level entities, and there are 9 building blocks. If you just want to split any business into fundamental blocks, the businesses all look same. But how do you select the combination of those business building blocks? That matters. That makes you unique. Similar to this song, every song is different. Every song has a unique tune. Every song has a different the composition. Why? Because the 7 tunes, in how do you arrange the combination, the amplitude, the other kind of tana bana in that makes a difference. And that makes it so different that it is as good as like a fingerprint. So a unique business model to your business is like a fingerprint, which is making you different than others. Now, how investors and why investors are generally taking the interest in business model? Because they want to know what kind of detail you are aware about, when it comes to your business. So they want to check your detailing and depth. Because if you're not following any framework, there are chances that you will miss a lot of things. They also want to see what are the gaps in your business model and whether those gaps are known to you or not. It is okay to have gaps in business, but if it is not known to you, that's challenge. So if you know the gap and you are aware that you're going to cover the gap in future, that's something which they want to know. They also want to see how much ready you are with respect to competition. Because competition is always there, and there is a possibility that your business model and competition's business model are almost comparable. Then you can only differentiate that if you know what is that they are doing and what is the framework through which you are comparing it. They want to see how do you assess your competition. And the last thing, which is what is the secret sauce you have. That is the curiosity which investors have. They want to know why you are unique, because they will never put in money in something which others are also doing. You should have some unique strength in your business so that you will be leading with respect to others. Now, whether you will become successful or not, that no one knows. That investor also do not know. But having something different makes the chances of success more, rather than doing the same thing what others are doing and getting into a red ocean and cutthroat competition. So these are the reasons through which investors wants to understand your business in more detail, and that's why they prefer that you follow some business model framework. Now, business model is not a B plan. Generally, there are confusions which I see, that people start getting confused with these things, that B plan, revenue model, pitch deck, all these things are same. These are not same. These are different set of documents. Similarly, business model is totally a different document. It is not the same thing what you generally hear out. B plan, pitch deck, revenue model, financial plans, and all that. These are different things. Now, there is also a difference between business function and business model. Now, we all are aware of business functions. What are these business functions? I'll share that in subsequent slide. But let me first explain what is the difference between these two. And I'm going to share the difference with an example here. So when you go to a doctor, what is doctor doing? Whenever you go to doctor is first trying to diagnose you from the external appearances, checking your limbs, your finger, the color of your eyes, what is happening to your skin texture, whether how you're feeling, on your face, and all those external examinations which doctor is performing. But when doctor is not able to get anything out of that external examination, doctor is taking a deep dive. How? Using some kind of instrument. some kind of diagnostics, some kind of reports and test. And when they do the deep dive, what is that they're checking? They are checking what is happening in the organs, because organs are actually responsible for functions of the body. Organs are responsible for ensuring that the body is performing the way it is supposed to perform. So for that, doctors are trying to understand everything what is happening at the organ level. And this kind of study, so when we only study the external features of a business, that's called business function study. That is also important for certain reasons. But when we really want to see what is happening deep inside the business, why these things are happening, what is happening, and if you want to do some fundamental changes, where should you impact? That is happening at organ level in the business. And this organ level study is called the business model study of the business. Now, these are the basic functions which we all know: marketing, sales, branding, production, HR, admin, finance, accounts, innovation, growth. All these things what we talk are generally the business functions, but these are not the business model. Business model framework is something different, which is this. So here is, I am introducing Mr. Alexander Osterwalder to you, who is the man behind this term called business model canvas. He is a he's a business philosopher. He comes from Switzerland. He coined this term in 2005, and by 2008, he came up with a very interesting one-page framework of crafting and showcasing a business model. Now you will say that, okay, it took 3 years. It did not take only 3 years. It also took 450 people. So Alexander did something very smart. He made a team of business coaches, consultants, and business experts across the globe, and 450 people participated in this exercise. And they all discussed for 3 years, and finally they came up with this thing, which is a one-page document, which is called the business model canvas. Now, some of you can ask the question that, Amit, before 2005 and 2008 also there were businesses. Businesses are in existence for hundreds and thousands of years. Then was it not the case that the entrepreneurs who were doing business before that, they were not talking about the business models? Yes, they were talking about the business models. If you go through the Harvard business reviews, and if you go to other top management institutes, you will find that there were 20 plus frameworks of business model. And almost half of them I have gone through in detail already. I have studied those kind of frameworks. And my conclusion is that this framework, which is a business model canvas framework, is the most simple and most actively and widely used framework. Why? Because of this simplicity. It can converge everything into one page without any confusion. Now, before also people were using, the entrepreneurs were using business models, but those who were they were using it because of their own exposure and common sense. And the business model canvas made it so easy that everyone and anyone can study this, because there are now 9 fundamental set of questions. If you ask these questions to yourself, and if you are knowing the process of how to identify and find the answers for this, you will get your answers. So today we are going to study this business model canvas framework. Now, how to read this framework and what is that it looks like. Let me just show you a glimpse of it. So this is read, or this is studied in a sequence. It's not that you can just start it anywhere and you can finish it anywhere. That way it will not help you. So it starts with who are your customers, what kind of people are paying you and why they are coming to you. Why they are coming to you, and not only coming to you once, why they are coming to you again and again. And then what kind of channels you are using for acquiring the users and delivering the value to them. Then during this process, how do you manage and maintain your customer relationship with them? And how do you actually create the value? What are your key resources? What are the key activities you are performing? And what are the key partners you have? And while you do this, what are the costs you are incurring in your business model? And what is the stream through which you earn money? What are your revenue mechanisms? So these kind of sequence is followed when we study this business model canvas. Now, I know that it is not easy to understand this so quickly, and that's why this is just a start. I'm just explaining you that how this looks like. I'm not asking you to understand this at this stage. I'm helping you out to understand and memorize it more. So let us go to the next level. If you see this side, where if I show you this particular side, this is all about external factors. And if you want to memorize it, you can memorize it easily. Just consider three C's. Three C's. The first C is customer segment, then is channel, and then customer relation. So if you try to memorize it by three C's. Three C's, which are all external factors, You cannot control these factors, but you can definitely influence these factors. And that's what is required here, that even if you are not able to control, that's totally fine. Even if you are not able to control, it's fine. You should be able to influence these factors. Now, next is all internal factors, and these are three Ks. Again, it's easy to remember three Ks. The first K is key resource, then key activities, and then key partners. So if you now see 3C and 3K, out of 9 elements, 6 elements are very clear. Can all of you type 3C and 3K? Just in the chat box, type 3C and 3K so that I know that you are listening and you are following me. Just type 3C and 3K. Perfect. So some of you may not be able to understand it quickly. It's totally fine. It's totally fine if you're not able to understand. Do you remember your nursery or LKG or kindergarten stages where the teacher is asking you to write A for apple and 1, 2, 3 and K, K, G, G. You don't even understand that, but that's totally fine. When you learn something from scratch, you're not supposed to understand that quickly. First, you are supposed to know about it and memorize it, and then you understand that slowly, slowly. So that's the stage where I am following that very kindergarten basic stage where I'm helping you to memorize first. So 3C and 3K, you cover the 6 elements, and then in between you see a value proposition. Why? Because the external what is happening and the internal what is happening, the combination of these two is actually creating the value proposition in between. Then down below 3C is a revenue, and down below 3K is actually the cost structure. And if you now see in a different angle altogether, the 3C's in the business model are creating the desirability in your business. Because this is how, who is your customer, what is the channel, what kind of relationship you are building, and partially touching on the value proposition side. This right hand side on the business model is actually covering the desirability. Then this left hand side in the business model is actually covering the feasibility part of it, because you are internally doing certain activities through your key resources and key partners, which is actually helping you to understand whether it is possible or not, whether it is feasible or not. And then down below there is a viability, whether commercially it is making sense to you or not. So now I hope you are getting a better idea of it. I hope you are getting a better idea of it now. So desirability, if you understand, feasibility, if you understand, viability, if you understand, and any business model is combination of these three major factors. So if you can prove the desirability in your business, if you can prove the feasibility in your business, and then you can also establish the viability in your business, the matter is done. You are already crafting a good business model in that case. So all of you, are you enjoying this process? Are you able to understand it better now? I'm definitely going into further details, but let me understand whether the pace is right and you are able to get what I'm saying. Cool. Awesome. Perfect. So some of the people, they come and ask me this question that, Amit, this looks like a simple thing, but yes, this requires a detailed study. This is going to consume maybe 10, 15, 20 hours of yours and your team to come up with a final business model, which will be your version 1. But then people are asking questions that, Amit, why should we do this? Why should we actually invest so much of time in this? And my answer is that simple. If you have assignment in front of you that you have to cut this log, and if you have only limited choice, tool number 1 and tool number 2, you have to select any one of them. How many of you are going to select tool number 1 and how many of you are going to select tool number 2? Just type 1 or 2 in the chat box. Type 1 or 2 in the chat box. Those who will select tool number 1, type 1. Those who will select tool number 2, type 2. Okay, so the choice is clear. I'm also going to select tool number 1. Why? Because tool number 1 is an advanced tool. Tool number 1 is a cutting edge tool which will help me to do my job better and faster. And I said that you have only two choices. You cannot take a bend saw or an automatic saw or something. You have to do this only. Now, tool number 2, you will think that tool number 2 is very, very much frugal. It is almost for free. Yes, it is for free, almost for free. You can pick up a stone from anywhere. You can take a stick from anywhere. You just tie it up and you start doing it. But then you should remember that you are not in a stone age. You are not in a stone age. You are not in the Adam or Eve era where you are competing with anyone, everyone who is using the stone. You are in an era where people are using advanced tools and technologies. And if you select tool number 2, you are boom, you're gone. The competition is not going to spare you because competition is using tool number 1. But then again, interesting things, what happens that even if you have selected tool number 1, what is the guarantee or assurance that you are using the tool right way? Because some of you will use the tool right way. You will cut it like this. And some of you know the technique or have learned the technique from someone, and some of you are going to cut it like this. This. And so, those who are going to cut it like this, they are using the right technique with the tool, they are going to be the real winner. So having the tool only does not make sense. You should know the right guideline that tool is supposed to be used from here, or tool is supposed to be used from here, or tool is supposed to be used from here, which is the right guideline from which the tool should be used. And then the technique. So the technique and guideline also are important along with the tool. So tool, guideline, and technique, 3 things if you have, then you will be the right winner. Then you know the right thing, and then you are able to compete with the right competition. But the tools comes with sophistication. The tool requires some bit of investment of your time, energy, and other resources. And that's why this one pager is the output, but this will require a couple of hours of yours to go into detail and to come up with the thing which is good for your business model. So I hope that you are able to understand that the importance of tool is not in the output. The importance of tool is in what goes in the tool, and your effort is required there. So before I move forward, now you have understood the tool. Some of you know me already. Some of you may not know me, know me. Who am I? Just quickly would like to share a couple of things here. So I'm a mechanical engineer. I started my career as an engineer. I was a nuclear scientist. If you see in that picture, my gold medal was delivered or was honored to me by Dr. Kalam, who was the president of India at that time. After that, I started working with Nuclear Power Corporation as a scientist, and then I completed my MBA and joined L&T. L&T, I was doing a high flyer job. I was traveling across the globe, doing a lot of good stuff on business development and taking initiatives in a lot of new businesses. And then someday during 2013, I decided to start my own business. I founded Zimber. I was a co-founder of Zimber, which was into home services, my first internet venture. And for that, I raised funds as well. I got award from one of the prestigious investors in the country, which is IDG. They awarded this thing for successful fundraise journey. And then today, I'm founder of MSMEx platform. Well, why I am sharing this with you? Because some of you may be coming with extraordinary career profiles. You may be topper in your career. I was one of them. Some of you may be average student in your school days. I was one of those, because till 10th class, I was not studying at all. Now, from 10th to engineering, gold medal was a phase shift. So I always say this, that there's no boundary. You may be a mediocre student, that's fine. You may be a topper, that's also fine. Because a lot of people say that toppers are useless. No, it is not. And some of you think that the people who are not studying, they don't have good grade, they are also useless. No, that's also not correct. What matters is from now onward, what do you want to do? That matters. Your past is past. Your past has given you only something. But what do you want to do now? I came from corporate, completely different field, and that too I started my internet business with zero knowledge, but I did that, and today I am I'm sitting on 7 to 8 years of experience of platform building on the digital side. So I believe firmly in this, that what you have decided today to do, that is going to decide your future. So this is important for you to know. These are the brands which have created my career. I have worked with these brands. I have served these brands. So I am assuming that a lot of you also comes with legacy. Never ever forget who has taught you. Never ever forget. All the brands, all the companies, all the work what you have done, you have earned a lot of things from them. Always give your due respect. I also give due respect to these brands. Always. I have been a very active speaker on TIE, on KPMG platform, on Young India CII, on Thapar Engineering College, HSBC, Axis Bank, Kotak Bank, Wiki Digital, Media, ET Rise, MSME events, Pitch Deck, IIM Ahmedabad, IIT Bombay, BITS Pilani, BITS Ranchi, SP Jain, Jai Hind College, lot of sessions I keep doing. But I coach a lot on business model canvas, even to that extent that I was invited by government of Gujarat to coach their faculties for business model canvas, because this is something which I've been practicing for quite a number of years now. I have coached hundreds and thousands of people on this particular thing. I am having thorough knowledge on crafting business models. I am also an investor. When I exited from Zimbar was my first venture. I raised funds from these companies. I sold my first venture to Twitter. In between, I did some crash landings, some kind of wrong calls on business models. But I figured out very quickly that these are the things which are not working for me. So finally, I am running MSMEx today. In between, I made some angel investments. And this is, you can see, so this Man company, I'm not sure how many of you have heard about it. Aishman Khurana is the brand ambassador, so I'm part of it. Pilgrim is another beauty brand. I'm also invested with that. So why this is important? Because I have perspective on the venture side. I have been an entrepreneur. I am an entrepreneur today. I have a perspective on the investment side. I am an investor. I've raised a lot of funds, and I've helped a lot of companies in raising funds. So with the three kind of different dimensions, I carry a perspective. So whatever I'm saying in today's session, you can trust me. Some of you may be curious. You can Google about what kind of funds I have raised so far. This is the only number which is there, but yeah, much more than that I have done. So now with this background, I must say that now you're ready to craft some of the features on your scalable, disruptive, and investable business model. So if you have access to pen and paper, just go and grab it. Or if you have access to your typewriter or your mobile keyboard, just keep making your notes now, because I am asking some very, very intrigued questions and very thought-provoking questions to you. These are going to force you a lot on the thinking side. So when we craft a business model canvas, we ask these fundamental questions. The first is customer segment. Now, what is customer segment? We will talk about that. But before that, the important thing is that investors are looking for disruptive and scalability. Disruptiveness and scalability, when they are looking for, these are the kind of questions what they ask. They want to understand how large is your market. Do you have enough customers in your market? That is what they want to know. They also want to know what type of customers you are selecting and why you are selecting these customers. And are you spending on the right TG? That's what matters. Because if by mistake you are selecting a wrong TG, a wrong target group, then you end up wasting a lot of money. And that money may be yours, and that money may be investors' money, but yes, it's a business loss. So that's why it is critical to understand what is your right TG and you have enough market. Then they want to understand how are you attracting them? What is your USP? What is your value proposition to them? And this value proposition should not be same as your competition. This should be different. You should have a different value proposition altogether, not exactly the same what others have. Then what is your acquisition channel, and what is the delivery, and what is the dependency? Can you move from city to city, city to city while you are expanding? How fast you can expand, and how you ensure that your channel of acquisition and channel of delivery is actually not getting impacted, because customer segment is a one-time activity, value proposition is a one-time activity, but channel is a ever going activity. Because whenever you scale, you come and hit on the channel part, because if you have limited channels of acquisition and delivery, you will not be able to scale. So this is something which is important for scalability. Now if you ask me frankly, this is important for disruptiveness, and this is important for scalability. This is how it goes. Then customer relationship. Do you have a hook? Do you have a hook for your customers while you are communicating with them? It is not only the talking with customer. This customer relationship is a deeper subject, where while you are acquiring your customer, while you are serving them, and during the after sales service and engagement process, how are you actually communicating with them? What is your channel of communication, and the process of maintaining the relationship with them? That is what is important there. Then coming to the 3Ks, what is your key resource, and are you nurturing the right key resource? Nurturing means you are supposed to invest the right amount of energy and money and resources on managing this particular piece. Do you think that each and everything in your company is important, or are you focusing on only top 2, top 3 items when it comes to the resource management, which you know that they are the most important things for you, and how do you identify that? Whether your model is linear or non-linear. If your model is linear, then it is a heavy capital intensive model. But if it is a non-linear model, then it is actually very high scalable model. But how do you make a linear model and non-linear model? Which particular business can do this and which particular business cannot do this? You should have thorough clarity on that, so that when you're designing it, you are able to get those answers well. And not every resource you are supposed to have in the company. Some resources which you cannot own, you transfer it from internal key resources to key partners. And you should be able to make the decision whether you should own those resources or not. And what is your cost structure? Do you have a benchmark cost structure? And this is the question which I always ask, that you want to be like this, but you are operating in this kind of cost structure. Until unless you shape your journey towards this and you follow this cost structure, which is a benchmark structure, you are not going to get the result. If you continue operate on this traditional cost structure and not follow this kind of thing, you are not going to make it. So you need to understand that as well. And the pricing mechanism. What kind of innovation you have done on the pricing mechanism? What is your revenue model? What is the pricing mechanism here, and what is your revenue stream? The combination of these two is called revenue model. Do you have the right revenue model? These are the kind of questions which investors are expecting from you when you are explaining your business model to them. Now let me take you through one by one. We have seen all these 9 building blocks. So let me again come back. Do you remember we talked about 3 C's? Do you remember we talked about 3 K's? Do you remember we talked about a value proposition in between? Do you remember that we talked about the cost structure down below? And do you remember that we talked about the revenue stream down below? Now, by this time, I think almost all of you are familiarized with, and you remember all the 9 elements of business model canvas. Just type 9 if you all remember all the elements of the business model canvas. Perfect. That makes my job easy, because I try to make your job easy to help you understand and to memorize it better. It's not only to understand it, it is also important to memorize it better. Because once you memorize it, then the framework is clear in your mind, and this 1-page document should be there in your mind, so that you close your eyes and then you know customer segment, channel, customer relationship, value proposition, key resources, key activities, key partners, cost and revenue. Everything is clear to you. By closing your eyes, you can think about your business model even if you are sleeping. This happens with me. This happens with everyone who goes through these fundamentals. And this helps you in thinking your business model canvas or business model elements, even if you are busy with something else. Cool. Let us go one by one and understand these elements in more detail. So, customer segment. So this is two stages. In the first stage, you are supposed to understand what is customer segment. The customer segment is a group of those people who are going to pay you, whom you are going to deliver your service. And this can fall into multiple categories: mass, niche, sector, diversified, multi-sided. You need to understand each in detail and then take your call. So there are two stages here. First, you decide whether you are selecting mass, niche, multi-sided, diversified, sector, or after that you define it in detail. So you don't define it in first stage. First you decide the type at a high level, and then you define it in a framework. I'll come to that. But why the customer segment definition is important? See, when we start a business, so some of you may already be running on a business. And if I ask this fundamental question, okay, who is your customer? What is your customer segment? You may not have a concrete answer. You know what happens that when you do not have the concrete answer on your customer segment, you don't know where to spend money, where to find these people. And you keep doing a, kind of bombardment hunting rather than doing a sniper hunting. When you do bombardment hunting, you waste a lot of effort. So you may be talking to 20 people, and you generally face this challenge. When you talk to 20 people, hardly one or two people are actually getting convinced. You know where is the problem? The problem is not in selling at times, because you know what is there in your product and you know how to sell better. You talk to 10, 15, 20 people, only 2 are getting converted. The problem is in talking to wrong people. Now, if I say that by selecting the right customer segment, you are actually supposed to not talk those 15 people. You are actually not even supposed to talk those 15 people. You are supposed to talk only 5 people, and out of that you are selecting 2. Wow, awesome conversion. The conversion improves because now you are not wasting time with 20 people. You are wasting time. You're investing your time with only 5 customers. But then how to discard these 15 which are not fitting in your customer segment? For that, you need to define the customer segment first. Coming to value proposition, another important building block in customer segment. Now, why I'm jumping from customer segment to value proposition directly? Because I told you that after customer segment, we start asking the question why they are coming to us again and again. And value proposition is the reason why customers are coming to us again and again, and why they are convinced even at the first time. Now, you are seeing some kind of value propositions on the screen right away, but this is not the full list. There are more than 100 possible value propositions, and some 30 odd value propositions are very, very normal, which generally people talk about. Now, what is the mistake? What we do, we pick up the value proposition what is good. We feel, oh, efficient looks good, let me pick that. Oh, status is good, let me pick that. No, that's not the right way of picking value propositions. The right way of picking value proposition is what suits your personality. As a founder, what suits your personality, what is that you can deliver well, and what is the value proposition which customer is looking for, and what your product should have. Not what sounds good, what is required. There is a difference between what looks good and what is required. The requirement of customer could be something different, but what you feel looks good is something different. So there is a disconnect. What customer wants, build those capabilities in you. Now, if you do not have the right value proposition capability, build that. Bring people from outside, hire resources, buy resources, and build that capability inside so that you can meet the value proposition requirement of the customer, what customer is looking for. So this is how you do that. Now, value proposition is a make or break in any business model. You do anything there, all the 9 blocks. The value proposition is screwed up, which is there in between. This side is all the external, this side is internal. Value proposition, if not right, then it is going to spoil the entire business model. Because customers do not know what is the reason why they should come to you. So pay attention to the value proposition very carefully. Then comes the channel, another important element which is responsible for scale. Now, how do you actually acquire the customer and how do you deliver your value to them? That comes from the channel, and channel has its own process. Now, the channel can be online, offline, or combination. Channel can be direct, indirect, or combination. That depends on which stage your business in, what kind of business you are in, and what kind of investment you have, which you want to put in there. That is a call, and that's the reason there's a difference between the Groffer and DMart and the Kirana store, because they are very much different on their channel side. Channel is something which is main difference between them. Coming to customer relationship. Now, this is not the thing that we do on phone or WhatsApp or chat. This is much beyond that. Whether we want to establish a personal channel with the customer or on automated channel, whether we want to dedicate the personal on that or whether we want to keep it self-service, whether it's a co-creation or a community based, this what kind of customer relationship, what we want to establish, that matters a lot. And for that you have to understand these things in detail and then take a call. Again, depending on the stage of the business, depending on the size and your vision, what do you want to do in future, in coming 1 year or 2 years, you decide what kind of customer relationship channel what kind of customer relationship you want to establish. And nothing remains same, this keeps on changing, because when you scale, you change the customer relationship. Then comes to revenue stream. Now we have already seen 3 C's and value proposition. 3C and value proposition all put together is doing what? They are helping you to capture the value now. You have created the value. Now is the time when you are supposed to capture it. Now you capture it through revenue stream. Revenue stream is nothing. How do you price your customer? What is the mechanism through which you price the customer? Whether it is ownership, sale, usage fee, brokerage, advertising, subscription, renting, licensing, what kind and why? Can you use combination? That's a question. Which one you should use? That's a question. And that again depends on a lot of factors, depends on your business and stage. And combination is always good. And this does not come alone. This also is coupled with a pricing mechanism, whether you have a dynamic pricing mechanism or a yield pricing mechanism or some kind of other pricing mechanism on the auction side. What kind of pricing mechanism you have, that matters here. The combination gives you the right revenue model. Then comes the key resources. The way I was saying that in the start of my session, that not every resource is important for you. You are supposed to focus on very, very important resources only, because you have limited time. You don't have all the time in the world. You have only limited time. You have only limited money. Because of that, you are supposed to focus only on limited resources. Now, your key resource could be anything. It can be in the financial side, it can be in the physical side, intellectual side, human, or it could be combination as well. But not every resource in your company is a key resource. Don't make a long list of all the 30, 35, 40, 50 items what you have as a key resource. Key resources are generally 1 or 2, which can make or break your company completely. So identify your key resource well and nurture it. Pay a lot of attention to that, nurture it, make sure that these key resources are never going away from your business model. Then what kind of key activities you are doing? This is again, in terms of scalability, it is important. When we select the key activities, we need to be very clear that there are certain activities which are falling into production domain. Like say engineering, construction, cooking, or some kind of manufacturing activities all fall into production kind of domain. While in the problem solving domain, it is all about one-on-one interaction and one-on-one consulting base. That could be a doctor, that could be an engineer, that could be a lawyer, or that could be a business coach or consulting kind of thing, where you are solving someone's problem, and that is the kind of model you can pick. The other kind of model, which is a platform-based model, where you are helping to meet demand and supply. And the platform can be online, that platform can be offline, or platform can be combination of online and online both. Again, your call what kind of model you are picking here, but whatever you are picking has to go in line and gel with all other 9 rest of the 8 blocks. Otherwise, it will get into a disbalance. And then comes your key partnerships. Now, what kind of key partnerships? Not every resource can be owned by the company. Not every resource is supposed to be owned by the company. When everything is not to be done by that, then in some cases, you are transferring some portion to your key partnership. Say, for example, for Swiggy, if they are taking the bikers in their role, that could be their key resource, but they're not doing that. They're transferring that into partnership, and they say each and every biker, delivery biker, is a partner for us. In that case, they are getting into a different kind of relation. They are making asset light model and becomes very much scalable in that case. And that's a call which you take, that whether you should hold this resource in the company, or you can also manage this resource through a partnership and still can run the company. And that kind of decision when you take, you actually take a decision of key partnership, where you can arrange this key resource and make them key partner through strategic alliance, competition agreement, or partnership, or buyer supplier agreement. And then comes the cost structure. Now, there are two different fundamental costs, fixed cost and variable cost. I'm sure that all of you are running business, so you know what is fixed cost or variable cost. And then what is the ratio of fixed cost to variable cost, that is important here. Now, that decides the scalability of the business model, and investors are very much interested in what is your fixed cost, what is your variable cost. If your variable cost and fixed cost structure is not falling into the standard cost structure, what they are looking for, you will have very low chances of attracting them. But if your cost structure is such where you are falling into that, then you have higher chances. Now, if your cost structure is not right, how do you balance it out? You balance it out by economies of scale principles and economies of scope principles. And through this, you are able to manage your cost structure well. So with all these things, I'm sure you have now some fair understanding. And the way I said, your kindergarten days where you are learning the alphabets, and from alphabets now you are understanding it better, and possibly now you are not doing A for apple, now you are doing APPLE apple. Now you are not doing C for cat, now you are doing CAT cat. So this is the next stage where you are moving, you are trying to understand this in more detail, and you have fair idea of these blocks now. Now let us understand why entrepreneurs should be learning the business model study in more detail, because this gives you the investor lens. The way I discuss all those pointers where any investor should be looking at certain things, the same things you are also supposed to look at, because you are supposed to evaluate your business from the investor angle. You are supposed to carve winning strategies over your competition, and the scalability and disruption at each and every block. Some blocks are important for disruption, some blocks are important for scalability point of view. You should be differentiate that and work on that accordingly. This also helps you in crafting your investor deck or your business plan, and this helps you in going through an evolution process from stage 1 to stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, because you keep working on your business model in future as well. And that kind of story is very exciting, and investors wants to know the story, that how did you arrive to this model which is working now. And then you tell them, we started with this model, when you move to this model, then you move to this model, and then we are here today. That proves that you have already done the mistakes, and now you are all set and ready to grow. This is why entrepreneurs are also supposed to know the business model. This ultimately turns into multiplication of revenue, because this saves a lot of time and money at the fundamental stage, because this helps you in doing the mistakes on paper. Any mistake which is done in field, any mistake which is done in the business is costing money. Any mistake which is done on this paper is not costing you money, because this paper is only costing you your time, energy. Your time, energy is the only cost which is going there, but this paper is saving you lakhs and crores of rupees, because if you are not doing this exercise on this paper, you will do that experiment in the field, and then you are going to burn lakhs and crores of rupees, and then you will waste your time and money there. Now let's take a quick recap. What is that you have learned so far? You have learned the introduction to business model canvas. Then you have learned the need of business model, why you should be studying that, and why investors are looking at that. Then you also understood the importance of a tool and guideline and technique, why it is important to invest your couple of hours in business model study and understand each and every trick and trip there. And then you also understood the 9 building blocks at stage 1. At stage 1, you have understood all those things. Now we are close to an hour complete.